is slide 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conceptual Alterhumanity, a panel about conceptual identification in an alterhuman context, what that can look like, and my attempts to give this community some vocabulary to talk about it. My name is Daystar, or Julian Solander. I am of the system of Wonderbeasts. I am a gold dragon and a storyteller. I am an archetroper, dragonkind, concept folk, and Damien. Outside of Alterhumanity, I am a storyteller twice over, a clay artist, and I have a special interest in Paleolithic archaeology. I also love to read, and my other special interest is Ursula K. Le Guin, whose books of Earthsea are my heart, home, and tale. This is slide 2. Let's begin with defining what a concept is in this context. When I talk about conceptual alterhumanity, I'm referring to identification with the abstract understanding of a real object, phenomenon, property, or other thing that exists in the world. I am also referring to symbols, metaphors, social roles, and archetypes. I want to emphasize that this is a really, really broad spectrum, and I probably haven't covered everyone that can conceivably relate to this label. I am one dragon, and I have a very, very specific experience under what I hope will become a wide umbrella and community. This is slide 3. I chose the term concept folk to encourage this hope. It was inspired by the term fiction folk, and it is intended to serve the same purpose, an umbrella term that makes it possible for all manner of people to find community with each other based on a shared quality of their alterhumanity. In the same way that fiction folk is inclusive of anyone with fictionality, concept folk is inclusive of anyone with conceptuality, the state or quality of being conceptual in some way. Now, what is conceptuality? Simply defined, again, it is the state of or quality of being conceptual, which on its own tells you guys exactly nothing. So let's start with some examples of what the term might cover. This is a long list, but I doubt it covers everything. I based this list off of an incomplete list of alterhuman frameworks that's currently being collected by our friends in the Dragonheart Collective. So shout out to them. Their website is at Dragon's Roost NeoCities. So concept folk can include, but is likely not limited to, being the concept of something, being the embodiment of a concept or identifying as a concept, embodying a role, profession, or archetype, or understanding yourself through the lens of an archetype, narrative, or trope, intimately associating yourself with a concept such as an aesthetic, subculture, or symbol, relating to, identifying with, caring deeply about, or being affected strongly by a concept, basing your sense of self around a concept so that while you are not that concept itself, you are inextricable from it. Feeling like a part of or a shard of a concept, feeling at home with a concept, or feeling like a concept or akin to one. I've purposefully kept this list free of terms and community jargon, said as affectionately as possible because I am presenting new community jargon. I wanted this list to be as clear as possible, and also because I would like for people to choose for themselves whether or not they want to be associated with this term and community. Also, as a note, the last item on it refers to a proposal I will be making later in this presentation. So foreshadowing is a literary device. This is slide 4. With some examples as a reference, how can we now define conceptuality? So first, it is based on an abstract or symbolic understanding of something that exists in the world. Second, it involves identification with, as, or like something that is a continuum of ideas as opposed to a discrete and defined entity. And 3, it explores symbolic, metaphorical, and abstract forms of alterhumanity, not in opposition to more literal forms, but in partnership with or adjacent to them. This is slide 5. This is just a reiteration. Basically, conceptuality is one, the process by which an abstract, symbolic, non-literal thing, so a concept, is anchored in the person embodying it in such a way that it becomes concrete, specific, and personal. And two, the state or quality of conceptual alterhumanity. This is slide 6. Six. So why is this term needed? I see a clear need for a term like this in our community for a few reasons. Firstly, while conceptuality is very intertwined with other forms of alterhumanity, as I'm sure many of you know, my personal experience of and the way I have seen other concept folk approach their identity is often very different from the frameworks provided by other communities under the alterhuman umbrella. Secondly, there are no widely used words or terms that I'm currently aware of that take into account these nuances and also provide a larger umbrella term for alterhumans with related but still different experiences to cluster under. All of this results in a lexical gap where the ordinary language of alterhumanity falls short. This is slide 7. The main point of this presentation is less to talk about concept folk as a whole or as a term, and more to go over some terminology and frameworks I want to propose to make it easier to discuss conceptual alterhumanity. I have 3 proposals, which I am really eager to see people expand on, disagree with, dissect, and apply to their own lives. So first, I will be talking about the with as dichotomy and proposing a way to at least make it a trinary, if not open the way for even more ways of talking about alterhumanity in general. Second, I want to talk about embodiment, which I'm sure some of you have noticed me use in this presentation. I will be pulling from conversations we've had in the Architropers Guild Discord server for this. Third, I will discuss keystones very briefly, and I've come to understand these as a core part of my experience of conceptual alterhumanity. This is slide 8. We've probably all heard otherkinity, therianthropy, and fictionkinity defined as identifying as something, and while heart types are defined as identifying with something. But have you ever identified like something? And I don't want to muddy the waters further. Instead of identifying like, I refer to this as metaphorical alterhumanity. Instead of identifying as, I refer to this as literal alterhumanity. And instead of identifying with, I refer to this as sentimental alterhumanity. So these are 3 different approaches to being alterhuman. They are not, I don't literally equate them with specific labels. I think anyone of any label could potentially fall into metaphorical, literal, or sentimental. So yeah, my personal belief is that these frameworks of identity aren't strictly bound up in specific labels. These frameworks, which I've taken to calling literal, metaphorical, and sentimental alterhumanity, also aren't mutually exclusive. I'm like a dragon, which has also meant for me that I am one. I don't want conceptuality to be relegated exclusively to the metaphorical sphere, but it makes sense to me to introduce it as falling largely on that axis. Also, as a note, this isn't an idea I've thought about as deeply as I have with the other 2 concepts that I'm presenting here today. And I'm honestly hoping someone else can take this as a springboard for a more in-depth discussion, because I personally do not understand the with/as dichotomy as it is presented. And nor is it particularly useful to me the way it's being used. So this is, like all the other concepts I'm presenting here today, food for thought that I'm really would like other people to expand on in their own words and on their own terms, because a community is built by everyone, not just one person. So next is slide 9. This is a concept I first heard discussed within the Architropers Guild Discord server Shout out to Willow, who actually owns that server. We've had some really good discussions in there. So, for those who may not know, archetypry is an identity based on an archetype, job, or role that is typically not extant within present society. Common examples include paladin, jester, storyteller, shrine maiden, dragon, dog, or beast of burden. The archetyper is deeply influenced by their archetype in all areas of life, including in relationships, jobs, hobbies, and other alter human identities. The archetype may be focused on the performance of the role in question or on the narrative likeness of the archetype to the archetype. So the discussion around embodiment or syncing arose from the question of if archetypers get shifts the way Therians do, to which the answer was yes, but not exactly. And I think the same can be true for concept folk in general. Um, Shifts are based on a presence of phantom limbs, a change in envisage or mental state. Similarly, but more broadly, a sync or moment of embodiment for concept folk is a moment in which they may feel uniquely connected to their concept, as if they have become this is the metaphor I use, but it's as if they have become part of a larger idea and act as its channel in the world. Um, this is a very common experience for me, and it can manifest in different ways. Um, Beyond these specific moments of embodiment, I would also define embodiment as referring to the lifelong process of aligning oneself with their concept. The idea of embodiment is parallel to the idea of shifts, as it encompasses more than having phantom limbs, and the emphasis is on both short and long term alignment, but it's not in direct opposition either. I want it to be another tool in your vocabulary to describe what you're going through. The term is also blind to distinctions between voluntary and involuntary embodiment, and it is focused around both lifestyle and sensation. Um, this is slide 10. Um, so this one is brief, but I define keystones as being the central organizing principle of someone's conceptuality. This principle can be extremely broad or specific. It can also be as abstract or straightforward as the person desires. This term is meant to be a catch-all for an idea that's otherwise hard to express. Um, Another way of phrasing this is that it is the domain of someone's conceptuality. Um, the only way I can think to explain this is by talking about my keystone. So I am a storyteller, both in archetype and in species. I'm also a dragon in archetype and in species, technically, or sorry, technically in archetype. My keystone is illumination, so the revelation of things that are hidden. Because of this, that is why I'm a storyteller. That is why I'm a dragon. Um, that is why I do pretty much everything I do in my daily life. I write. I'm an activist. I try to understand people on a deep level. I think very deeply about esoteric things like concept folk. Um, and that is all related to my keystone. So that is kind of what that term refers to. And this is slide 11. This is a community in its infancy, and we have the chance to get it off the ground and thriving. I know I'm not the only person with these experiences out there, and I hope you all will take this chance and the words I've proposed as a springboard for discussion, debate, and further innovation. Feel free to disagree with me, challenge my ideas, and take them and make them your own. I also have some questions and challenges for you all to hopefully get you started. 1. Think about your alter humanity from a metaphorical angle. In what ways are you like your type? Is this way of thinking about it useful to you? Do you feel you have a conceptual element to your alter humanity? Why or why not? What is your keystone? How has it impacted your life? In what ways is a label like concept folk useful to you? What elements make up your conceptuality? How did you first come to understand it? And then some challenges. Write a post describing your experiences of embodiment and what it feels like in the short term and the long term. Find at least one other person who relates to the term and ask them one of these questions or another one that you've thought of. Propose alternative names for any of the new vocabulary if you can think of it. Let's see which stick. And create art depicting your concept type and explain it in detail. And that is my presentation. Yeah. Please remember to ask your questions in panel questions. I think we're going to go a little bit over time. I don't know if that's okay or not, because Willow's panel is starting soon and I want people to go. So Otaku Gunso, unfortunately, I do not know what flame haze is, but if you feel like it falls under architropy for you, then absolutely. Yeah. I'm really glad people enjoyed the panel. I'm reading through the chat now. Is it fair or reasonable to use embodiment as a term, even if you aren't concept folk or architropy? Embodiment is a term in the English language more broadly, so I really can't forbid anyone from using it. I would say that if it's a term that's useful for people outside of concept folk, then absolutely run with it. I coined the term with this definition in an attempt to describe conceptual experiences of embodiment, but I can see why it might fit for other people as well. Brer, I don't know if you were able to speak as audience members to share experiences. I think it's almost time for Willow's panel, and I really don't want to keep people from that because it looks really, really interesting. And yeah, I'm really, really glad that people, oh, okay, there's 30 minutes. Okay, I can go over. There we go. I think I'm keeping, I honestly, I'm really bad with time. So if there's more time, that's actually great because, okay. All right. Are there any more questions? I'm really glad to see that people are liking the term. That makes me really happy. I spent so much time on this essay and oh yes, okay. Kestrel asks, do you mind elaborating more on keystones? I'm interested in the concept, but I don't fully grasp the concept of it. Sure. I honestly, like, the section was short because I also don't really fully know how to explain it yet. It's not a thing in and of itself, if that makes sense. It's a term to refer to a specific thing that you experience. So if you think about your own conceptuality, generally speaking, your conceptuality has like a specific realm. Yes, Mel, thank you. Yes, Keystone is comparable to Fictomir. It is just the domain that your conceptuality occupies. Okay, Hallow asks, do keystones have to be related to conceptuality or can it be more broadly ultra-human? I don't know. That I don't want to make any rules. So if you feel that it is more broadly ultra-human, like for instance, if I don't know, your keystone is being a bison, that works for me. I don't make the rules here. So Robin asks, would you say that divine ultra-humanity is inherently connected to conceptual identity? I wouldn't say inherently, because I'm sure there's some people who are divine who don't experience that. But for me, I very much, as I was writing that essay, I also noticed the similarities between like divinity and just conceptuality in general. So I think there is some kind of connection there. I think that's something that should be explored further. So Evelyn asks, so light is like a very common recurring thing for me. Light as the central symbol in a play that's highly significant to me. Light as a common language between worlds. Light as an opposing force to darkness. The light that powers Z-moves. Light manipulation for misdirection. Would saying light is my keystone be an applicable usage of the term? Yes, it would. Kestrel, you're very welcome. And Jude shared a very good example of keystones. Yeah, humanity is the lens through which my conceptuality presents itself is a very good way of phrasing it. Daedra asks, can water be a keystone, including the feeling of water, symbols for water, and / or seafood, being a concept that I identify with over all my kin types, even though water is not an idea but a literal thing? Yes, because you're still talking about the idea of water. Water as a symbol, water as like whatever it means to you. So yes, water can be a keystone. Yeah. Okay. Tamamai asks, any advice on how to take what is an inherently antagonistic archetypal role within mythology and folklore that is also frequently malevolent and spin it into a positive influence on my life and interactions with others? Part of me thinks I could be taking the antagonistic part and using it to challenge others to better themselves or to challenge unfair systems. Any insight on this? I mean, I think you said it perfectly. I think you could be using the antagonistic part. You could be using it as fuel for activism, for instance, to challenge unfair systems. I think what you could do is think about why or how your archetype is antagonistic and think about ways to recontextualize that reasoning into something that is positive for you and for others. Willow asks, do you have any ideas related to like titles being concept folk adjacent? I definitely have something going on with Rain and Petrichor, and using the username Petrichorin has kind of become an identity thing for me, maybe as a title. To me, Petrichorin has always meant being from Petrichor. So to be honest, I haven't thought about this, which is why it's great that we're discussing it. I do think titles could be concept folk adjacent for sure, because it's like an abstracted understanding of like yourself as a person being presented. Okay. So Jay asks, I believe my partner may identify with this term. He identifies very heavily with which cannot be defined, but has effects on the universe in an unperceivable way, similar to forces of nature. He views his life as a human as a way to interact with and be embodied, but he feels he cannot be described in ways he can find community with. Would that be a keystone? How would you go about exploring concept folk? That's a good question. Yes, that would be a keystone. I don't want to set myself up as the authority, but as I understand keystones, yes, that would be a keystone. How would I go about exploring concept folk? I would tell him to write about his experiences of embodiment. What does it feel like to be embodied? What things trigger his like feeling embodied or sinking? What things make him feel less connected as well? And that's where I would start. Yeah, my voice is Nim. I'm looking in panel 1 and you asked, is there some essay that explains keystones further? Unfortunately, no. But Robin seems like they are eager to get going on that, and I would love that. So, yeah. Oh, good. Okay. I'm really glad that I managed to do this presentation. And I'm really glad that people are resonating with it. So, so I want to clarify that like keystones are not a separate label, that it's a term that's useful for, that's supposed to be used for analysis of your identity. It is not like a thing that you have to qualify to be under. It is not a label in and of itself. So, but Xavier, you are asking, I view myself as a knight. And you're asking if being something of a guardian could be a keystone. Yes, pretty much anything can be a keystone, probably, to be honest. Yeah. I think it's the lens through which you understand your conceptuality, essentially, or even like the lens through which you understand yourself. Also, I want to shout out Solace in the panel 1 chat. Anyone who's interested in animals as concepts should look into Pullman form finding. Yes, you should. You absolutely should. I love daemonism, and you should look into Pullman form finding. Okay. Otaku Gunso, you were asking, is me being half elf as what is often described as an ethnically ambiguous looking Black person, despite having 2 Black parents, based in the Tales of Symphonia universe, a keystone? I think that's ironically too specific. I don't know. Is this concept like being described as an ethnically ambiguous looking Black person? Is this like a central part of your identity, like especially of your Alterhumanity? And if so, then possibly, yeah. I don't want to like confirm people's keystones for them. So yeah, I don't want to be the authority on that. I don't really want to tell people what they like if they are. Tamira, in panel 1, you were asking, wanting to experience as much of the world as possible feels like a keystone to me. That does feel like a keystone. Yeah, it's Jay, you're asking, can we get some examples of what conceptuality could look like? Like you described yourself as a storyteller and some keystones that come with it. I'm wondering how this could look from how you're describing it. Okay, so I am one storyteller. The keystone for another storyteller could very well be something completely different. But for me, storyteller feels like I almost get hungry if I'm not telling stories. Like I feel like I'm starving myself. I'm denying an essential part of my nature. And this is coming from someone who who is an identify as concept folk, so concept kind more so specifically. A lot of my life is focused around my keystone, which is illumination. specifically. And again, a different storyteller might have a completely different keystone. This is just mine. A lot of my life revolves around it, and not doing the things I feel like I'm meant to do to be a person feels like I'm atrophying. So I don't know. I would need to get more specific questions about what conceptuality could look like, but that is what it looks like for me. Voxels asks, we've been talking about one keystone per person. Do you think a given person might have more than one keystone? Yes. I don't make the rules. I'm just giving you guys the vocabulary to talk about it. But yes, absolutely. I think somebody could have multiple keystones for sure. It's I don't want to dictate something like that. But I totally could see how that's possible. Rex says, this isn't too much of a question, but I wanted to bring this up because I've thought about this in relation to the system community and archetypes before. Within systems, a lot of the way that roles are presented feel more like archetype embodiment. I wonder if that could be something to consider for other systems looking into archetypes, especially since unrelated to the con, we have been seeing more discussion of systems who feel dissatisfied with the way roles are presented within the community. I would love to see this discussed more. I don't have anything to add at this moment, but honestly, yeah. So Lav asks, could there be a lot of overlaps with archetype and concept folk? Could they, in some cases, for particularly people, be used interchangeably? Or do you believe its cultural understandings, terminology, and the like would be very different? As Mel says, I would say archetype falls under the concept folk umbrella. So I don't think that they will have very different understandings in terminology. Archetype is going to have specific terminology that is specific to itself. But I don't think they're going to be like massively divergent unless something happens, I guess. I don't know. Vex says, following on from what you described, is it fair to assume that a keystone feels like a theme to your life of sorts? Yeah, that's one way that it can present for sure. Like it can be your essential motif in the narrative. It can be the thing you feel you are called to do, so more of an archetype. It can be essential symbol like light or water. Yeah. Starvation, like conceptual starvation, is actually something I want to write an essay on, because it's really, really strongly felt for me. So Jay asks, also the concept can be anything from objects to jobs to vibes, right? Yes. It is whatever you feel it is for you. I'm really, really glad that everyone enjoyed that essay. The essay will be on our Dream Width once I write it, which might be a while because I'm actually working on an essay about what draconity is for me, which also has some conceptual elements, obviously. But I will probably end up writing that essay in like soon-ish. So if you want to read that essay when it comes out, our dream width is Gossamer Dash Musings. I linked it in the socials a while ago. Jay asks, what is Dreamwidth? So Dreamwidth is kind of a blogging, journaling platform that is a lot more slower paced than other platforms like Tumblr. I'll let someone else answer that in more detail. Jude points out that being concept folk and fiction can is very interesting because I feel like a lot of how fiction is presented is related to motifs and themes and narratives. It's very neat when it ties together like that. Yeah, you know, I see myself as being like fictionality for me is part of my conceptuality in a different way than being a character is because I'm a storyteller. So I was thinking of that. Rex says I was thinking of that with fiction folk too. If identifying us from fiction could count as a concept, depending on what your feelings are on the nature of your fictionality. Yeah. You should talk to Brer about that because I think he's writing an essay. Actually, no, I know that they're writing an essay. So, I'm really glad to see that people are thinking about things. This is really fun. This is really fun for me. Thanks, Brer. Sorry about that. I also would love to see your response after the panel. Thank you. That would be great. I love discussion. That's why I made this panel. It's all about discussion. Yay. Okay. Yeah, Dreamwidth is awesome. I love Dreamwidth. It's so great. It's so great. Yeah. I'm also planning to publish a revised version of my essay based on this script. So I guess keep a lookout for that as well. That'll be on our Dreamwidth. Yeah, which I can send in the chat again. I'm just gonna link to. Hang on. So this is our Dreamwidth. Keep an eye out for the updated version of the essay. I'm going to try and see if I can elaborate on keystones a bit more as well. Oh yes, you guys did hear my cat. That's Georgie. That's Georgie. He's Robin says, thank you so much for writing about this, now talking about this and coining the term. I'm really, really glad that it resonated with you because I also, yes, I will send cat pics. I also like it describes me better than anything else I've found that involves Alterhumanity. And so I wrote it for everyone that might feel the same way. And there's a cat tax in panel questions. Also, Jay, yes, this is the panel. That is the panelists. I'm just proxying. Yeah, that's Georgie. He's really silly. That's him. He's really silly. He's about 6 years old now. So, yeah. I think I'm gonna call it here to give everyone time to recover for Willow's panel. Thank you so much for attending my talk. I'm so glad people enjoyed it. And yeah, keep discussing. I'm looking forward to see. Yeah. Also, yeah, make sure you go see Willow's talk on fiction lifestyling because it's going to be really awesome and I'm excited to see it. So, all right, I'm really glad. And that's it for me. So, goodbye.